A tragedy suffered, an even greater tragedy avoided. That's the narrative on Lauren Leskovac's mind since her daughter was seriously injured in a car crash. The greater tragedy? What would have almost certainly happened had her daughter Lindsay not had the crash detection feature activated on her iPhone 14. Falling asleep at the wheel and obliterating her car against two poles and a tree, the phone knew what had happened and immediately called 911 emergency services. The person from the fire and rescue told me that the phone initiated the call, so I looked further into that to find out. Laura told ABC 21 WFMJ and discovered that iPhones have an automatic crash detection on it, if you have the setting on. Laura said the phone was connected to 911 for 22 minutes, during which Lindsay, who broke both her femurs, as well as bones in her pelvis, hips, and cervical spinal region, managed to help the paramedics find her location where she lay, trapped under the car. We're so blessed she's alive. It's a miracle. We're also blessed that there's no paralysis, Laura said. The mother added her daughter has a long road to recovery, but the most important thing was that she had the technology that it was activated, for otherwise, there may have been no road left at all for the teenager. If you have an iPhone 14 or newer, you too can activate the detection system by scrolling down to the Emergency SOS under the Settings menu and activating Crash Detection. From that menu, you can also select which number it is your phone should automatically dial, 911 in most cases, although you can change it, for example, to an embassy number if you're traveling out of the country. For some, a 4-bedroom, 3-bath with a basement theater, wraparound deck, and a 2-car garage is their dream. For others, housing that's quaint, that's economical, even portable, is the aim. The market should provide options to everybody, and for those on the latter category of tastes, a Dutch company is making little trailer-sized homes from the bosoms of decommissioned wind turbines. Known as a nacelle, a play on words referring to the turbine component known as a nacelle, this 2-room human hutch is surprisingly luminous and chic. The 35 square meter, or 376 square foot, pods are built by a company called BladeMade that uses decommissioned wind turbine parts that are impossible to recycle as materials to build new structures like benches, highway barriers, playgrounds, or even housing. Inside, a warm North European wooden finish on the walls and furnishings embody the project's name and help convince the occupant to nestle into Nestle's living space. Perhaps designed more as a statement on the challenges of potential upcycling rather than as a direct-to-market product, BladeMade has nevertheless received orders for 10 of these nacelle homes, having been certified by Dutch authorities under the nation's building codes. Everything in the built environment, everything that you see around you, has an end of life, BladeMade's CEO told CNN Style via video call. And we need new solutions besides waste or landfill, incineration, or something without value. A challenge facing wind energy and millions of pounds of fiberglass heavy material that cannot be recycled, but which nevertheless must be replaced every few decades. The initial wind turbine boom has seen its first wave of mass decommissionings, and hundreds of thousands of tons of nacelles and blades will need new homes or purposes. This is basically the most complex thing that you can do with it, said the CEO, who's also a partner at the architecture firm Superuse Studios, one of the home's designers. So, all those other less complex things are now easier to imagine and to realize because this has already been done. There were many partners involved with the debut of Nestle. Woodwave built the interior, which was designed by Superuse in Reliving Business in Wind, provided the decommissioned V80 turbine nacelle for use in the first model, which was sponsored by Swedish power company Vattenfall. By 2050, no doubt hundreds of nacelles will be in need of replacing every month across Europe and the world, and every one of them becoming a home seems doubtful. But as is so often the case, design helps us reimagine the potential for many different things, and if by 2050 there are hundreds of people living in nacelles, humanity stands only to benefit. A new targeted treatment for cats with head and neck cancers may also help save human lives in the near future, says scientists. The first ever clinical trial of the therapy found that more than 1/3 of felines who received the treatment had their disease controlled with minimal side effects. The drug will likely be effective for humans with head and neck squamous cell carcinoma, HNSCC, which is notoriously deadly and difficult to treat, according to the American research team. There are two major findings from this study, said study senior author Professor Daniel Johnson. It showed us that it is possible to target a transcription factor that drives oncogenesis, which is something that has been notoriously difficult in the past. Also, it demonstrates that pets with cancer can be a good representation of human disease, and that clinical trials in pets may yield more reliable results than tests in mouse models. Professor Johnson says the drug is the first to target the transcription factor STAT3, which is present in a range of both solid and liquid cancerous tumors, including a majority of HNSCC cases. The idea to test the drug on pet cats arose when study first author Dr. Jennifer Grandis talked to her sister, who is a veterinarian. Oral cancer in pet cats, including HNSCC, are extremely difficult to treat, and most animals die within 2 to 3 months of diagnosis. One cat who benefited from trial was a 9-year-old black domestic shorthair named Jack. He was diagnosed with HNSCC, and vets gave him just 6 to 8 weeks to live. Owner Tina Thompson said, "It was just such a gut punch. We wanted more time with him. When I found out about this clinical trial, I knew I wanted him to be a part of it." Jack went to weekly treatments for 1 month, and during that time his symptoms and watery eye improved significantly. He ultimately lived more than 8 months beyond his most dire diagnosis. "Those 8 months were meaningful to us because he was there in our lives," recalled Tina. "Jack got to spend one more Christmas with us, and he loved our Christmas tree. He was worth every bit of the effort." None of the cats in the trial developed side effects that were attributable to the treatment other than mild anemia, according to the study published in the journal Cancer Cell. Of the 20 cats who were enrolled, 7 exhibited either a partial response or stable condition during the study period. When the research team looked at tumors and blood samples from the cats who underwent treatment, they saw that the compound was working in 2 ways. It not only blocked the activity of STAT3, but also raised the levels of PD-1, a protein associated with an immune response to cancer. Dr. Grandis said, "This study is a great example of how we can think more carefully about spending our very limited resources on studies in lab mice that are not even the best models of human cancers. By partnering with veterinary oncologists and doing clinical trials on companion animals, we can learn an enormous amount about how these drugs work while also helping people's pets." None of the cats in these trials were harmed, and many of them benefited. The researchers say that conducting clinical trials in pets can be a much better model of how drugs will work in humans compared to lab mice. The team is currently working with a small biotech company to advance the new compound in clinical trials for both pets and humans. A painting looted in World War II has been turned over to the Argentine police after a years-long search led the rightful owners to a property listing that showed it hanging on the wall in the living room. A Dutch investigative news outlet contacted the real estate agency, who called the authorities, but when they showed up, the painting was gone. This tip-off from the agency led to 4 simultaneous police raids last Monday in different parts of the Mar del Plata state. One of them was the home of Frederick Kagin, who fled to Argentina in 1951. Kagin was charged with transporting to Switzerland large quantities of hard currency, diamonds, and artworks that had either been stolen or sold to the party under duress from their Jewish owners. Kagin fled to Switzerland, where the country's neutrality protected him from extradition. He eventually moved to Argentina, bringing with him Portrait of a Lady, an oil on canvas of Italian Countess Colleone, by the artist Vittorio Gislandi. It was Portrait of a Lady that was identified in the photo by a Dutch newspaper called the Algemeen Dagblad, which was investigating the whereabouts of many stolen artworks that once belonged to another chief character in this story, the Dutch art dealer Jacques Gauwsticker. Gauwsticker began a systemic attempt to recover his stolen artwork in the 1990s. Portrait of a Lady had already been on a database of stolen and lost art, but leads in Europe turned up nothing. During World War II, many officials who escaped Germany fled to Argentina. It was there that Frederick Kagin's daughter Patricia and her husband Juan Carlos Cortegoso came to inherit the work and possibly others, court documents outlined. Just as Kagin's daughter was in possession of the painting, it was Gauwsticker's daughter, Marie von Sacher, who was carrying on the search for some 1,200 lost works that has been acquired by her father, who recently passed away. Von Sacher's attorney told USA Today that the painting was likely sold to Kagin in 1944 and that it was painted in the 1700s. Her father tried to keep it and other works, including some Rembrandt and Van Goghs, hidden in a nook below a 17th century canal in Amsterdam before they fled the advance of the German army, but evidently they were found. Gauwsticker was a good record keeper and had a black notebook with exquisite details of every painting he hid away, a key resource in efforts to recover them all. Just as the Dutchman had tried to hide his property from searches, Patricia Kagin evidently tried to hide Portrait of a Lady in advance of the police raids. Arriving, the authorities found a tapestry depicting a horse hanging in its place, but wall marks and even a hook behind it indicated that a painting may have been moved. During the raids, multiple drawings and paintings, some of which could be as old as 18th century, were taken into custody, court documents said. Kagin and Cortegoso were placed on house arrest, as they could be charged for failing to turn over paintings earlier. An attorney representing the couple did eventually bring the painting to the National Public Prosecutor's Office. It is encouraging that the painting is now with the authorities and that it is no longer missing. I am relieved that it is now in a safe and secure place, Von Sacher said in a statement to USA Today. The outlet reported that the $2.5 billion worth of artworks, antiques, jewels, and other properties confiscated by or sold under duress in the 1940s would today be valued at closer to $25 billion, of which Portrait of a Lady is just one small piece, a small piece that nevertheless represents a big victory and a huge relief for the descendants of one particular victim. There's an old biblical legal maxim that goes an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. For Canadian Brent Chapman, his new maxim is a tooth for an eye, because he has become the first in his country ever to receive an osteodontokeratoprothesis. If your Latin is on point, you'll realize that translates to tooth in the eye prosthetic. Literally, Chapman's tooth has been surgically implanted into his eye to act as a lens fixture, which has enabled him to see again. It's considered a last resort, and after 50 surgical transplants and procedures, that's where Chapman was, alongside his dedicated ophthalmological surgeon, Dr. Greg Maloney, who has been putting Chapman under the knife since he was a teenager. Now 34, Brent suffered a rare reaction to ibuprofen at age 13 that left severe burns on his cornea. The cornea acts like a windscreen, keeping debris and liquid out of the eyeball, while allowing light to penetrate and reach the retina and optic nerve. But the burns permanently obscured his vision in his right eye, while his left eye was lost entirely to infection. The tooth in the eye surgery is rare, very rare. So rare that despite being pioneered in the 1960s, Chapman's procedure is the very first ever done in Canada. According to Dr. Maloney, it's turned to when all other options have already been tried and failed, or the initial damage to the cornea is so substantial that the ophthalmologists know there is no chance conventional replacements or grafts will succeed. The tooth is chosen because it's made of the hardest material produced by the body. A hole is drilled through the canine tooth and a high-tech lens is fitted inside. The tooth is then attached to the cheek through the eye. An aperture to the retina and optic nerve is created so that the light can enter the lens and reach it. With glasses, Chapman has about 20/30 vision, meaning at 20 feet, he can see clearly what someone with perfect vision can see at 30 feet. Dr. Maloney spoke with CNN about the procedure, the bizarre sense in it, and the effect it has on people. The tooth is a real ideal structure for holding a focusing element in place. It's hard, it's rigid, it survives in poor environments, and the body accepts it because it's part of its own, said the corneal surgeon from the University of British Columbia. It's like watching people come out of a time capsule and reintroduce themselves to the world. It's very emotional for us. Chapman agreed. It's really indescribable to be able to see the whole city and how there's a whole world just intersecting, said Chapman, looking out at Vancouver from Maloney's office on the 16th floor. When you're blind or low vision, you're not seeing that, and you're kind of in your head more. There's a lot more mental chatter, and it can be difficult. Dr. Maloney and I made eye contact for the first time, and we both got quite emotional. I haven't really made eye contact in 20 years. He's excited to see the faces of his beloved niece and nephew, 4 and 2 years old, and also to return to a normal work schedule. He enjoys massage work because it means that he can help others who have pain and give back, in a sense, for all the treatments he's received over the years. He can't wait to not make everything about me, go to Japan, and not have to worry about plans falling through or piling various medications and emergency contacts into his luggage in phone case in case his vision fails again. It was so unpredictable. I would make these plans, and it would be heartbreaking when I couldn't do them, he told CNN. Recapturing ancestral responsibility and restoring endangered orchids are the themes coming out of Australia's scorched grasslands. Burned by the cataclysmic bushfires of 2019, a national park called the Barrington Tops exploded in rare vine double-tailed orchids, and now the traditional owners of the lands perform prescribed burns to aid these flowers in flourishing under duress from invasive species. During the wildfires, fire jumped up here on the plateau, said Luke Foster from the country's Department of Climate Change, Energy, the Environment and Water, DCCEEW, told ABC's News AU. In the burn footprint the following season, we had 4,000 orchids pop up right where the fire went through. Prior to 2023, it had been more than 50 years since the plain experienced a cultural burning. The native peoples all considered the Barrington Tops, called the Bian Plain in their language, to be their traditional lands. And elders of these groups speak of times when it used to be a place of gathering. Warrameh elder Michelle Perry has been collaborating at the request of the DCCEEW to help lead the burning in aid of the vine double-tailed orchid. According to Perry, Aboriginal groups have been conducting these burnings for millennia to prevent larger, more destructive wildfires from breaking out. There was a sense that they, our ancestors, were giving approval. It was just a sense of, yeah, they're caring, watching. It has been one of the best things that has happened to me and my family, she told ABC. So far, the collaboration between the DCCEEW and some of the 150 different traditional owners has lit controlled fire to the Barrington tops 3 times, and research is ongoing to study its effect on the orchids. Miss Perry relishes each chance to forge a greater connection to the land and focuses on sharing and instilling that sense of connection into younger generations of Worimi and others. If you like more daily doses of positive news, please subscribe to my channel. Please also like and leave a comment, as this really helps the channel grow. Links to an article in this news story can be found in the description of this episode. Thank you for watching.